Hello and welcome to the Expat Show live from Germany. And we are a radio show, but we have cameras as well, except don't expect a TV show out of it. Well, joining us today is Scott Hazlitt. Welcome,
morning.
Scott.
Good morning to everyone out there in Radio Land.
And Scott, I think by your accent you are a former American from California.
That's right, from Los Angeles.
But now...
Now I'm a German.
Yes, and Scott actually celebrated this with a big party recently.
That's right.
Yes, all these celebrities were invited.
That's right.
I saw them outside.
Mr. Redfern, for example.
And also today, Alicia Banfield. Good morning.
Good morning, Barry, and everyone out there. Yes, and I'll be putting in my pitch about boozy, bulging Britain. How actually the Saturday night binge is bloating Britain's waistlines at a faster rate than any other country on earth.
Nope.
Wow, my goodness.
Gotta be first in something.
Go, go, go.
Well, from southern Germany, as always, we join Andrew Bossum.
I'll be trying a new relaxed approach. Let's see how that turns out.
Well, last time we promised we'd be looking at an Irish favourite tipple. You know, the black beer, the stout, I think they call it. If we're going to name names, Guinness, what's the other one, Murphy's, and so on. Anyway, unfortunately, we can't bring you that this month. So I'm sorry, Alicia, about the beer and everything.
Yeah.
I know you like it.
I'm out here on my own, but that's okay.
Oh.
Swimming in booze.
Well, unfortunately, our guest, who's going to talk all about that, Jerry, has been... rather ill recently, so he couldn't make it to this show. But Jerry, if you're watching us, we wish you a speedy recovery, and we'll get you on the show at some later date. Well, also today, we hope to hear about the new Band-Aid. Do you remember that? It was the charity super group.
Yeah, as opposed to the plaster you put on your arm.
If
for
I'm
a boob.
stuck
Yes.
on you.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay,
Yeah.
there you go.
Was set up by British and Irish musicians, 1984, by Bob Geldof.
Yeah,
Right.
taking me back.
Midyear, yeah.
That's right.
To
Raise
provide
money.
funds.
They raised millions.
For to help against famine. Well, anyway, we hope, no promises, but we hope to hear from someone involved in the setting up of the new equivalent of Band-Aid.
Something to look forward to.
Now, we begin with travel.
Yes.
And where do many of us stay when we travel? Well, in hotels, of course.
Yeah.
So the question is, which country has the best ones and which has the worst ones? And what are your experiences? Did you have a really bad experience? Actually, I suspect nearly everyone has had a bad experience of some kind on their travel.
Definitely.
Yep, definitely. Definitely.
And also, have you had a good hotel? What really stood out? Now, what we don't want is to hear particular stories and naming of hotels. This is not a consumer program. We can't help you with a consumer complaint at all. So no names, just experiences.
We're not doing reviews.
And we hope to hear your comments and. Maybe if you comment on YouTube, we will be able to read your comment out on air. And
You'll be famous.
You'll be famous.
Right.
Yeah, really, really famous, I promise you. Or you can phone us in the studio while we're live, that being Sunday the 30th of September. Here's the phone number, and it's 04488 527-0372. Leave that up just a few more seconds, just in case you've got a pen handy. You could just jot that down. So don't hesitate to give us a call, and we would love to hear from you about hotels. Or as Alicia said, a little later on, we're going to talk about obesity, and we'll be inviting calls in about that as well. So, hotels. Scott, have you ever had a bad time in a
I
hotel?
certainly have, and the worst hotel I've ever stayed in, I think, was in London.
Oops.
Yes. I think there's a big discrepancy between German ratings, star ratings, and British, as far as I'm concerned. This I won't name the name. I don't even remember what it was, but it was pretty central. That was the main criteria. And in the room, there was 2 different kinds of carpeting, and you can see where they had put it together there. Mm-hmm. And then we went down to breakfast. That I'll never forget this. The ceiling was, I'm about just about 6 feet tall, and I had to go like this when we got down, and it was in this cellar, this concrete cellar, and there was a Spanish head waiter who was
He was German.
He was Spanish.
He was
a Spanish guy.
You need to work on your accents, love.
Yeah, I can't do a Spanish. Yeah, Juan something or other. Yeah, and he was kind of in a low tone telling the other Spanish waitresses what to do. And they came to the table, I'll never forget this, and they said, "What would you like to eat?" I said, "What is there?" And they said, "Well, there's toast and marmalade, or you could get a continental breakfast." I said, "Oh, that sounds good." And they said, "That'll be 16 pounds extra." And I said, "What?" And so I said, "No, we'll have the toast and the toast was cold, and the marmalade was in little packages." Oh. So we decided we will never eat breakfast the rest of our stay there.
Yeah.
So, and that was just general.
I always wondered what was the basis for star ratings. Is there like an international system that all countries adopt, or is it a subjective thing? Because I do think that people have different criteria that they personally use for what constitutes a good hotel.
Well, there are ratings.
You've hit the nail on the head, because all the countries have their own system.
Yeah.
And sometimes it might be controlled very strictly by the government.
Yeah.
Other times it's not so strict. And you do find an enormous difference between countries. Yeah. Mm. So you can't say, the German standard is the same as the British one.
No, it's not.
It's not.
And I think there's probably also for these many review websites where people who've stayed at hotels can give their reviews. You'll go on the reviews and you'll see 1 star, and then somebody else gives it 5 stars. And I think it's very much based on what for you is important when you stay at a hotel. For example, I never forget, my brother-in-law said to me once, he said, if he goes anywhere and he stays at a hotel and he puts his bag down in the room, and when he goes out and comes back, he finds it there, as far as he's concerned, that's already 3 stars. So for him, a big thing was security.
Right.
For me, it is the food and how comfortable the bed is. I'm sorry. If I stay in a hotel and the bed is lumpy, because you're traveling, one of the things that happens, common thing, is you get tired, you're exhausted.
Right.
You want to sleep. And I have to say, I agree with you. The worst bed I have ever slept on was actually at a London hotel that supposedly was 4 stars. It felt like a lumpy old futon mattress.
So are we saying then that the British hotels are not as good as they should be?
I think maybe it might be a function of the bigger and posher the city, the more everything costs.
Yeah.
So you get a lot less for your buck.
Definitely.
It's just
definitely.
That's just how it is.
Yeah. I think you here in Germany, though, the standard's very high, and if there are criteria. You can look, of course, you probably can do this in any country, but I know online, for example, to get 2-star rating, they have to have a hairdryer in the room. That's one of the criteria.
Yeah.
And they go through there, and if you don't have there's no way it can be the best hotel in the world, no hairdryer. That's it.
But, trust Germany to have oversight and regulation and rules in place.
Yeah.
So
I have to say that having stayed in quite a few German hotels, the standard generally is quite good.
Very high.
And it seems to be related to price. So when you pay a certain price, that you have an idea generally of the standard you're going to get.
Yeah.
And, if you're paying a low price, it'll be clean, it'll be good, okay, but it'll be basic.
Yeah.
And the more you pay, the more luxurious it will be. That doesn't seem to be the case in a lot of other countries.
No.
Well, I'd love to stay in a country with like faulty towers, in a hotel that's like faulty towers just for the characters, you know? Would you just love to have to go into a hotel?
John Cleese would come down
and treat you with utter disdain as he's registering you in the hotel. But the best hotel I've actually ever stayed in, and this comes back clearly to my love of food. Anyone looking, you can see I love my food. Was actually in Central America, and they worked very, very hard for their 4.5 stars, and the food was exquisite. The hotel was really, really good, and they were quite responsive to anytime you asked for anything.
Where I said I would read out comments as they come in, and actually it is working. I've got it online here, and I can see. And Andrew is actually online. He's watching us at home. Because
Hi, Andrew.
you might have gathered that he's actually recorded today, but he is watching us at home. It says it's the first time he's been able to sit and watch the program rather than be live on it. And he says the most important criteria for a hotel is cleanliness.
Yeah, definitely. That goes without saying, because the worst thing you can do is step into the bathroom in a hotel room and see schimmel, mold. It's like, it just makes you cringe. Or the glasses look like, in the cupboard, look like they've been wiped clean as opposed to washed. So yeah, cleanliness. You don't want to be wondering what you're sleeping on.
That's very high on the list. That's true. Yeah.
You don't want to be correct, Andrew.
Yeah.
And for me, the food is still a close second, Andrew.
That's right. If you go down to breakfast and they've just got packed up everything and it's, it's plastic cheese and stuff, then it's...
And you said that you can tell that I like food. No, we can't.
Go on.
Yes.
Go on.
No.
You're so good for my ego. But anyway...
I was going to do it at the time. I thought, no, let her just carry on for the moment. And I've had good experiences and bad experiences. I think for me, it's a case of, am I getting what I expected for the money?
Yeah.
So if I'm paying a higher figure, I'm expecting that kind of standard. And if I don't get it, if I'm getting 2-star standard at a 4-star price, that's when I say no.
No.
And the cleanliness and all the other things, I just take for granted that if I'm staying in a hotel, these are
there's no
things,
cockroaches
and
running around in there.
they fail completely if that isn't there. Yeah.
I think it's because maybe I'm kind of persnickety or pernickety, as they're both correct. Because if I'm looking for some place to stay, I'm sorry, I like to live like an adult. Call me spoiled. But as a grown woman. But yeah, it's 3 stars or above. And at that level, I expect cleanliness to be an automatic thing. So yeah, I think for that reason, I didn't put it as the top. It's just one of those things I expect. But the worst experience I have ever had in a hotel is not even getting into the hotel. We booked in advance. We had our confirmation number. We had our room. We turned up at the hotel, and this was an international chain. And when we turned up there to check in, it was like, no, we have no room for you. And while we looked around and we saw there were all these groups, apparently there was a convention in town. They'd booked a group, and the hotel staff, and I know one of them did it, just go, this group has one extra person, and they probably begged and maybe tipped somebody under the table, and they just bumped us out of the room. And, well, this was what I assumed. I put 2 and 2 together when I saw what was going on. We said, but look, we booked it through one of these online sites. We had our confirmation number, credit card there, evidence we had. And they go, sorry, we have no room. And we said, so where do we stay now? And they would not even help us relocate to another hotel. It was like, you're flat out of luck, bugger off. So we had to stand in the hotel lobby and actually call around and find some place in the vicinity to stay. And that, I must say, I went online. I've never done it before or since. I went online and I did give a review, and I blasted them for that.
Yeah.
Well, they earned it. That
was disgusting.
I recently wrote a very scathing report. I wasn't going to. I mean, I stayed at a hotel I won't mention where it was because I don't want to embarrass them further, but because they are giving me a free night in another of their hotels.
Depending on what you say now, Barry.
Yeah.
So no names. I think I've stuck the knife in enough with them.
Listen,
And
neighboring country.
This story sounds juicy.
They
I wanna hear it now.
they are responding nicely and giving me a night elsewhere.
Well, wait till you stay there. You'll see how nice it is.
So
What happened?
well, I wasn't very happy because I paid what I thought was a top price for the particular place, which was not a big city. It was out, and it was a 4-star, and I won't say which country. Wasn't Germany, and I was expecting a 4-star quality
Standard.
as I would expect in Germany, and I wasn't pleased with the look of the entrance area. I thought it was the glass and everything was not clean, and you expect the glass to be all sparkling, it wasn't. Reception area, well, I saw it had this sort of wooden fascia on it. You know those planks they use for
Construction.
Tongue and groove.
tongue and groove.
Oh, yeah.
You put it on the wall, and it was made out of that, and it looked
So
like
I appeal immediately 1 star. Click. Yeah.
it didn't give me a good impression.
Yeah.
And I thought the sofas looked old.
Ratty.
Apparently they weren't, because after I complained, they said no,
Sofas
they're
were-
actually brand new.
It was the look. Oh, Barry, you don't understand the rustic.
I don't.
The rustic stuff.
Maybe this is what they call, what was it, shabby chic? or
Shabby chic.
Yeah, but apparently they were new, so I have to take that back. Mind you, it was difficult to see them because it wasn't brightly
It
lit.
didn't sparkle.
No.
It didn't sparkle.
So I wasn't totally impressed with that.
Yeah.
But anyway, that would not be enough to make a really bad complaint. But then when I got to the room, there were things like the bathroom had an old, what do you call it, vanity unit, where the worktop where the sink is, sink top, scratched and badly stained and everything. The shower, where it varied between warm and cold, because
That's
other people were using it. That's a common fault in old hotels and cheap hotels.
Yeah.
The showers, the thermostatic controls, and
But
and it's not pumped. The hot water is not pumped, and there's not a strong enough boiler to support it.
Yeah.
So that was bad. And you couldn't see in the room. The light by the door was out. They hadn't
They
fixed
knew why
it.
they did that.
So they hadn't checked that.
So basically what you're saying is this hotel was suffering from bad hotel management.
Yeah. It was a dump.
It was
Well, not necessarily management. I'll give them, they could have made a mistake. Housekeeping forgot to change a
but when you
bulb
put
or something.
everything
That's the
together,
thing.
when you put
It was
everything-
all starting to
Add
mount
up.
up, and then the lighting and the rest. There were only 2 little dim lamps by the bedside, and no lamp at all by the desk.
Yeah.
And I couldn't see. I couldn't see what I was doing. And a very dark carpet. When I took my shoes off, I was wearing black shoes. I couldn't see I couldn't find my shoes.
Black carpet.
Has anyone ever seen that? What is the name? It's one of those reality shows, 4 in a Bed, or sorry, I don't want to name names, but it's interesting. I don't really watch reality TV, but they send these people in, these couples in to stay in these hotels,
And they rate them.
they rate them.
Yeah.
I probably got the name of the show wrong. Listeners and watchers out there, feel free to correct me. But on the one hand, that they're kind of ramping up the criticisms just for ratings, just to get people viewing. But
Right.
on the other hand, it does open to your eyes to what kind of issues people should look for as when they're running a hotel.
Yeah.
And I do feel badly. I do realize that for smaller bed and breakfasts and pension, it costs a lot, all these little things. But for the bigger hotels, I'm sorry.
That's their
You got
business.
no excuse.
Nope.
I don't care what you say. You got no excuse.
Yeah.
There were several things. Several. I won't go on about it, but there were several more things.
got no
I made
excuse.
a list of, and I rather than send these forms they ask you to fill in after you've visited. Were you happy with your tick,
No.
tick, tick, tick?
No.
Well,
Nice.
my reaction was,
On a rate of
no,
1 to
it was
6,
so
yeah.
severe, it warranted more than that, so I didn't do it.
Yeah.
So I wrote a letter to their chairman or CEO, the head of the group,
Well done, Barry.
with Anschreiben, with signature. And-
Itemizing.
Yeah.
This was wrong. This was wrong.
Yeah.
This wasn't up to scratch.
But at the same time, a second one of these things asking me to comment came in, and I thought, oh, go on then. So I did. I wrote.
They asked.
Well, they asked for it.
You asked.
I
I'm
wrote
gonna
a
give it
shorter
to you.
version of it, and
With both barrels.
Yeah, but to their they
Credit.
They it was the group had been taken over, and they said they were going to refurbish the place and so on and so on.
Sounded like it needed to be
we're
gutted.
going-
And it
Yes.
sounded like they'd refurbished some of the rooms in the place,
But
But not the
And-
one you had.
and I was the unlucky one. And also, I'd paid a top price because I gathered afterwards there was an event on in town. So they thought, oh, we'll charge a top price for this. The rest of the time, they charge a lot less.
Yeah.
So I felt really,
So you were vindicated. You got action. You got
Yeah.
action on that.
yeah, that's
good.
it. And to their credit, they
Yeah.
they reacted, and that is good because if someone does make a lot of comments like that, and they react, excellent. That's how it should be.
Yeah.
It should be. These online, once again, coming back to these online reviews, they're very, very powerful tools because even when I am scrolling through trying to be my own travel agent, I will take a minute or a couple minutes and click on the link that takes you to these alternative websites and actually see what maybe the top 2 or 3 people say. I do that. I'm usually
But don't
not
you
big
think
into
that some of
reviews.
those are bogus?
They
I
can
don't.
be, yeah.
I do like how they take the scores at the Olympics for figure skating. I get rid of the high score. I get rid of the low score and look at what's said in the middle.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
But-
because the 5 stars, they probably planted some of them.
Well,
many of them.
in the meantime, some of these sites it says verified, right? So they have
Oh,
verified. So
yeah,
these are
yeah.
real people.
Real
It's
people.
not just someone went in there and put 20 good ratings in there because that that happens.
But me, I'm suspicious of everything, so I even don't trust the verified.
It's good to be suspicious.
I do it. So I take out the high score, take out the low score, and see what the middle people say.
But
Yeah.
That's how I do it.
a recent experience I've had that occurred to me that's kind of the funny side of visiting hotels. Twice this happened to me. One time I was on my honeymoon in the States and we went to this place and we stayed there and there was a wedding party in the hotel. And I thought, that's going to get loud. The hotel was pretty big, but I thought, if we get bad luck, they'll be in the room next to us, right? It was exactly that. We're in there, and on the other, you could hear in the wall where the head of the bed was on the other side. They had this wild party in there after. So I called them up. And this is kind of the funny. They could be in the film, They said the reception. They said, "Yeah," and I said, "These people are too loud. We can't sleep." It was 2:00 in the morning. I said, "Can someone please go up there and tell them nicely to quiet it down?" Okay. So someone goes up there. You hear it at the door. Bzzz, it rings in there, and you can hear everybody's quiet. And then somebody goes in there and says, "Oh, nah." So they're all quiet until the door closes. You click, nah, and then all of a sudden, "Wah!" It happened again.
Well, I remember I'm retired now, but in my younger days, I was a television director and I stayed. I was freelance or contract, and I would stay in a particular city on a contract for quite some time. And I stayed in one city in England in a hotel, in a Holiday Inn for a whole year. I was a resident for a year, but I went home at the weekends.
Yeah.
And
they cleaned the room at the weekend, so
and so I'd leave some of my things in a suitcase and put it in a storeroom or something, and then pick it up. And sometimes they'd put, on the Monday morning they'd bring the bag out and put it, and then sometimes they'd screw up, and they put it in the wrong room. Somebody else had given it or something, and I didn't. I don't think I was taken too seriously. But one gentleman who also stayed there, was a very famous presenter of a consumer program. And you don't see much of him these days. But anyway, he at the time he was doing probably the most famous consumer show, and big guy. And he looks it. Don't mess with me.
Don't mess with me.
And it was yes, sir. No, So when he made a complaint at the front desk, I thought, my goodness,
they took it seriously. They took it. Well, the diciest. I'm going to throw the diciest experience I've ever had in a hotel out there. I actually forgot about this until you were talking. And now I'm going to go a little bit beyond the PG-15 rating.
Yeah.
So had to make an emergency trip to the Big Apple. Stayed in a hotel, and the room was actually quite nice. Exhausted when I got there, so it was in bed, fast asleep. And cut a long story short, I could only assume that the couple in the room next door were two people having an illicit affair.
Yeah.
Because it was no filters.
Oh.
It was loud. I heard things falling off of tables onto the floor. I heard multiple languages coming at top of voices at peak moments. Yeah. And I thought, you have got to be kidding me. Somebody... I thought, am I being punked? I would...
Where's the camera,
yeah.
right?
Well, am I being punked?
I used to go skiing quite often in the winter, and staying in one place. I think it was in France, or was it Switzerland? Anyway, one side, the bedroom on one side, I could hear all this drinking. There was like a party going on. Yeah? And it was all this like drunken party. And in the other room, which was next to my bed head, I could hear this boom, boom.
Well, exactly, boom, exactly.
Boom. It was like being in the middle of a drunken orgy.
Exactly. You kind of what... And I'm there thinking, honest to God, it was so extreme. It was so ridiculous to the point where I thought they were being overly dramatic.
Right.
No.
It can't be real.
Yeah, because I was hearing, the symphony going and then crash, bang. The symphony going and crash, bang. So I'm lying there, I'm there thinking, and I must admit to you, I was in the room, it was my husband and I together. And I opened my eyes. And when I turned my head, my husband is looking at me, and we were livid. He just looked livid. And we did bang on the wall between.
Yeah.
Shut the F up.
Exactly, shut up. We didn't say anything, but just...
Yeah.
And it toned down, I must say, for a grand total of about 15 and a half seconds.
Right.
And then was back at it again. And I'm there thinking, so my husband very, very, and it was just not one episode. I kid you not, they were at it the whole night, like multiple episodes. Yeah. Wow. And my husband very dryly at one point says, well, I give him 8 out of 10 for performance, but 2 out of 10 for recovery. Because there were these long...
This should be available on the form,
Right.
So
exactly.
Put this in.
How were your neighbors? Yeah.
No, if that happened to me today, I'm telling you, I would have had my phone out, recording it,
right,
and it would have gone as a podcast.
Viral, yeah.
Right.
Actually, going back to the cleanliness thing a moment ago. Sorry, I'm hesitating because I see we've got a phone call.
Oh,
and,
okay.
I'm going to take this phone call in just a moment.
Maybe they're beyond PG-13.
But I just want to just tell you about a comment that has come in from Keith Duncan. And he says, I take my own sheets to hotels.
Oh. Good for you, Keith. That's good for you. I give you 120%
Gets
mark.
around the bed bug problem.
Yeah. Exactly. You never know what has gone on in the room before you.
Right. We do have a phone caller. I'm going to take an enormous risk and hope this is not a wrong number and fake them up. Because whoever has called us in the studio, hello, you are on air live.
Hi, this is Michelle Marie Shockley. I'm just laughing so hard at all these stories, and I wanted to share a story too.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Oh, glad you could join us, Michelle.
Yeah, it was back in the late 80s with my fiancé and I. We decided we would drive from Indiana to New York, and we came back through Atlantic City because, wow, that's something really cool to see and everything. And so we were college students, so on a really tight budget. He had a VW Beetle, and so we drove from Indiana to the East Coast in this Beetle, and we get to Atlantic City. Well, I'm too young to go into. I was only 20 and he was 22, so actually I'm too young to go into the casinos. But we snuck in and just walked around for 10 minutes, and that was enough. And so we picked out a hotel which wasn't a chain hotel. It cost like $19 the night or whatever. And so we get in there, and the bed sheets didn't look clean at all, and that was already one of these problems. But in the middle of the night, I'm hearing a munching noise, and I'm like, What in the world is that noise? I turn on the light, and there was a rat eating our Ritz crackers out of the box.
Okay. Immediately burn the hotel down.
I screamed.
No pets allowed, I say.
What did you do? Well, after you screamed, did you stay in the room?
We packed our stuff and we left and we went to the front desk and I mean I raised Cain. I really did because
and able
and able to. Maybe it wasn't a rat. Maybe it was just a big mouse. But to me at that moment it was a rat.
You shouldn't have told them. They would have charged extra.
For having pets in the room, as Scott said. But
in fact, no visitors in the room after 10 o'clock.
They gave us the money back, and it was one of those lessons. It was one of those lessons that I said, okay, from now on, when you stay at a hotel, it's going to be a hotel chain, and you have a minimum standard of a minimum standard.
No rats.
But even the chain hotels with the minimum standard, the carpet, you don't want to walk on the carpet with bare feet because there's just so much bacteria or whatever on it.
Yeah, I always take some of sort of flimsy slippers, the sort of things that the better hotels give you. And I have a pair, and I take those because I don't like walking on the carpets either.
I think it would be really a revelation for someone if you check into a hotel with a black light.
Yeah.
I would never ever do that. Not because I'm persnickety, but because I honestly do not want to know that level.
That's what they use in CSI. They blacklight everything. There's the blood stains. There's the rat droppings.
I'm just going to interrupt everybody just for the moment. There's another comment just coming in. Another comment on YouTube. It says, Barry, it's from Huvian. Barry, I once took a holiday in Zimbabwe, during which we spent a night in Bulawayo. The hotel was dire, and we had to put our shoes on to get to the ensuite because our feet stuck to the carpet.
Black light moment. That is a black light moment. You do not want to know what it's causing.
Take your sanitary wipes with you, always.
No, forget sanitary wipes, a washcloth, and bleach.
Bleach.
Sorry, Michelle, I interrupted you.
No problem. I'm finished with my hotel horror story. That's the worst that I had, and I don't want to ever top it.
I think you have won today's lottery for the worst experience, Michelle. Well done.
Rats in the room.
Thank you for calling in.
Now, Michelle, you called us before, didn't you? And
yes, I have.
You were on the program before. What are you? Someone told me you're involved in something. Music.
Yes, I have my. I also have my own radio show. It's called Heartfelt with Michelle.
Yeah.
It's in German, and that is tonight from 8 to 10 p.m.
And where's that? Which radio station?
It can be if you're in Wiesbaden area, then it's at 92.5, or you can have the live stream at radio-Rheinwelle, spelled in German RHEINWELLE.de. And the topic of my show is always about what good things people do for other people. And tonight on my show is Astrid Ahrens. She's international speaker, a keynote speaker, and she is presenting a project that I'm also involved with in the background called Voice Aid. And Voice Aid is a German-initiated project from Regino Havich from Berlin. Regino is a choreographer, but not in the sense of dance. He's a choreographer in the sense of stage shows, that he plans them and how that works and everything. And Voice Aid, just broken down to the very simplistic forms, there are already 4 or 5 different groups that have signed on to be with Voice Aid. And it's the next level of charity organizations. I call it the evolution of charity organizations. Voice Aid will be giving concerts in different countries, and in these countries you have your standard group of people that will be performing, and then they will be bringing in each country newcomers that are singers. After these concerts are held and after the costs are covered from the concert, 50% of the profit stay in the country for charitable organizations, especially for women, and 50% of the profits go back to Voice Aid for their international projects. And this charity organization will be holding concerts all around the world, and it's giving. On one side, it's giving the possibility for upcoming artists to have an international platform. On the other side, we'll be doing a project that's. We're doing the local issues, and we're also doing international issues. And that's what makes this project completely unique.
Is there a website for all this?
Not yet. The website will be online in about another 3 weeks. This is on September the 1st was the initial launch of Voice Aid at the Red Ribbon Award in Berlin. And tonight, with the interview and radio, I think this is going to be the first official radio interview of the project. Like I said, the website should go online in about another 3 weeks. And as soon as it's online, then I'll call back in next month and let you all know what the website is. But it's just like I said, it's next level of charity. That's that's what I call it. I call it the evolution of charities.
Do you remember the Band-Aid?
Yep, I remember that. I'm old enough.
Yeah, and have you ever met any of the musicians from that era? Bob Geldof?
No,
Major?
No, not personally. I mean, I know different. I have a lot to do with musicians from the 90s. I have them in my repertoire. Part of the project, for example, are the Weather Girls. The Weather Girls I've already signed on to be a part of Voice Aid, and they're not the original Weather Girls from the 80s, because that was the mother of the current Weather Girl, of one of them. But it's just really exciting to see what's going on, and we already have. We have one confirmed sponsor. We have a second sponsored that will be giving its name, which I'm not allowed to say at the moment, and we'll be doing other projects over crowdfunding. And part of this will also be, we will later on have things going on for speakers, for personal development, all sorts of things. So it's going to be a really interesting project that's going to rock the world.
Yeah.
Right. Well, Michelle, thank you very much for calling in. And just before you go, could you just give us the mention of your show again, just so that if people are listening in your area, they can pick it up or pick it up on the internet, maybe. Yeah.
Thank you very much. But the show is in German. It's called Heartfelt with Michelle, and the show is about what good things people do for other people. And in Wiesbaden area, it's at 92.5, or in internet radio, it is www.radio-rheinwelle.de.
Okay. Thank you very much indeed, Michelle. And we will indeed come back to you and hear how things develop with your music project. Yeah?
Yep.
Thank you very much, Barry. You all have a great day.
Thank you.
You too.
And you too. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Oh.
Well, we've had another comment in on the YouTube site.
Going back to hotels.
Yeah,
Okay, let's hear
continue from the last one. It says there was also a knife fight in the bar.
Oh,
well,
Lord.
That's entertainment. It's in-house.
Free
So we've
entertainment.
got pets, we've got blood, yeah.
It's
We've
entertainment.
got an orgy.
You should charge extra for it. It says, we also stayed at fantastic hotels in Zimbabwe, and it was a brilliant holiday and wonderful people.
Yeah.
Love the show. John.
Oh,
Is that our John?
Is that John?
It-
if that is you,
Well, he's been everywhere.
he's
so.
been everywhere.
Yeah.
So John is what you call an authority. If he says the hotel had sticky floors, then
And it did have sticky floors.
then it definitely had sticky floors. Hi, John. Right.
Okay. Well, just a little later, we'll be looking at the issue of obesity.
Yes, we will. And we will be looking at how that Saturday night booze up is actually pushing the waistlines of Britain up extremely fast. Faster than any other country in the world, as I mentioned, and it is going to become by 2020 an extra burden for the NHS.
Okay, so that's coming up. First, though, we're off to southern Germany, and could that be Andrew Bossum hiding behind the newspaper?
Dum, dum, dum.
This, in case you're wondering, is my new style. Laid back, relaxed. You see, my wife has mentioned that she thinks my delivery is too hectic. She says I should cultivate a certain nonchalance. So... Also, she said it was far too obvious that I was reading my scripts. So I'm doing something different. I'm doing this completely unscripted. Now, I haven't cleared this with Barry yet. So I really hope he approves of my new approach. Of course, Germans aren't exactly famed for their ability to relax, except on Sundays and public holidays when they're forced to relax by having all the shops shut. And of course, I've already talked about the Saturday afternoon Formula One shopping trolley race. Okay. Let me just think beautiful thoughts. That's better. In all seriousness, it's a myth that Germans can't relax. They can. They really can. It's just that they do so at the most inappropriate of moments. Like the time the tree exploded. No, seriously, it really did. It was a couple of years ago now, and it was a tree in a garden that away, caught fire. And my wife was the first to spot it, so she was the one who called the emergency number. To be honest, it would have been quicker if she'd run to the fire station and set off the siren herself, because she found herself talking to the most relaxed dispatcher in the world. His catchphrase, delivered in the kind of unhurried monotone reserved for a cartoon snail, was, "Where did you say it was?" I mean, there I was, rushing about the place, rousing the neighbours, while my wife was shouting down the phone at somebody who was carrying on like a distracted university professor who just mislaid his pen. And out. Also afflicted with inappropriate laid-backness, electricians, plumbers, joiners, plasterers, and everybody else necessary to build and maintain your house. They take their time and set about their tasks with a zen-like tranquility, at one with the universe, but not necessarily at one with your timetable. Moving into this house with the floor half-tiled wasn't much fun, but then our tiler wasn't a man to be hurried. And I know what you're thinking. Yes, of course, tiling is a skilled job and must not be rushed. It's just that in my book, not rushing is not synonymous with disappearing for weeks at a time. I mean, he's not the one who has to move out of his old place by the end of the month, is he? Bus drivers. Yes, bus drivers who take their own sweet time. At least in the area that I live, it seems to be a rule that a bus driver's watch is 5 minutes behind mine. Even at the bus station itself, they roll up when they feel like it, wiping the cappuccino foam from their upper lip, make themselves comfy in the driver's seat, start the engine, adjust knobs and switches here and there, and then, when they're done, graciously allow us to board. Now, after living for 10 years in Berlin, this relaxed approach to bus driving made a very welcome change. But I very quickly learned that if there is one person on a bus that you don't want to have zoned out, it's the driver, because that's when he sails right past your stop and you have to shout at him to bring him back to your version of reality. So there you have it. Germans are very good at relaxing. I just wish they'd do so in a way that would allow me to relax as well.
That's Andrew Bossum for you with his look at life down under in southern Germany. Actually, Andrew, I do like your new look. I mean, I think it's really good, isn't it? What do you think?
Nice.
Yeah, it looks. Yeah, exactly. No, we like
Where'd you
it.
get all those books, Andrew?
No, it's green screen. It's not real. It's not in his house.
He's just in his shed,
And
actually.
Andrew, if you're listening out there, they're in here just taking the mickey at you. Don't
I
worry,
love
looks-
it. I love
no,
it.
I
It's
love
great.
it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love it.
Someone has actually commented.
Yeah.
It says, I love Andrew. It says
Yeah.
on YouTube here. It says, yeah. And
You're building a fan club, one person at a time through the show, Andrew. Well done. Keep it going.
well, actually, Andrew has his own website.
Yes, he does.
And if you look for Andrew Bossum's site, you will find him on YouTube. And he's got a huge following, and you find lots of his videos there.
Thank you, Andrew, for fitting us in. Celebrity let you into your schedule.
Into his busy schedule. Oh, and some more comments about the hotels from Keith Duncan. Says, a few years ago, we booked a chain hotel, a highly rated hotel chain. After checking in, we found the backside and other building of the place was now a rent by the week place for the poor. And when we drove round the back, there were people grilling out, drinking, partying, and no telling what. Laundry strung out everywhere, junk cars, very scary, and it was in a nice area.
That's called added scenery. That's called a room with a view. They didn't tell you what the view was, but that was called a room with a view.
And
yeah, it's a little bit.
this is great on YouTube because you can look at all the comments.
Yeah.
And now REW boss, who's actually Andrew Bossum, he says, "Oh, I'm just a lovable kind of guy."
You are, Andrew. You
right,
are.
yeah.
And I'm sure your neighbors love you too.
Okay, that's right. So
When he's not reporting about
enough
them, yeah.
of that. It's obesity time now as I turn to Alicia. And there's no link between those two, I assure you.
Let's get fat.
Well, unless you're talking about people who may have problems with rooms because of their size. No, but on a serious note here, because, on this show we try to stay serious.
Right, all the time.
Turn our attention now to some recent studies. Well, a recent article that came out in The Telegraph talking about the amount of alcohol that Britons consume and the fact that now the UK is the third fattest nation in Europe. And this article actually came out in The Telegraph Online in September. So it's this month, 2018. So I'm going to back up a bit. In the background here, a bit of background. The World Health Organization did a survey of European states, the 28 European states at that time. So we're talking pre-Brexit. And they found that overall Europe had the second highest proportion of overweight and obese people, according to the 2014 statistics, and that there has been an increase even in low and middle income countries. Now, against that background, another study survey by World Health Organization said that the UK itself is the third fattest nation in Europe, rising from the fifth. Yeah, sorry. I'm pausing here to get my figures right before I speak. From 5th place to 3rd place in just 6 years, overtaking Lithuania and Andorra. And within Europe, only Malta and Turkey have higher levels of obesity than Britain.
I wouldn't have expected that either.
You wouldn't.
Lithuania and Andorra?
I don't get it. But nearly 30% of adults in the UK, a third of adults in the UK, are categorized as obese. And Britain is the 6th fattest country in the world. And of course, what is the fattest country in the world? Let's take a wild guess.
No, you can't blame him anymore.
That's right.
He's
of course, German now.
It's the US. But what's interesting is that the actual increase in rate of obesity in the US is actually less now in Britain. Britain is actually increased. We're talking a rate of increase of obesity. There are actually now greater than the United States.
Oh my gosh.
To their credit, it's probably because the United States has kind of peaked. I don't think they can get any fatter unless they are
on average,
the world.
I think
what's causing it?
Yeah. So this article on the Telegraph went on to say that WHO is linking this to, as I said, boozy Britain, because Britain consumes on average 11 liters of pure alcohol. This is 100%
what kind?
Per year.
But in what form?
It's beer, it's wine, but yeah, apparently mostly it's lager. But when you think that, let's look at the percentage of pure alcohol. Beer is about what? 4 to 6%. Wine is 11
to 14.
11 to 14. Vodka is 40%. So if you take out all of that, it's 11 liters in a year per person. So
these
that
drinks really are fattening then?
Yes, they are, because it's found that there is a link between alcohol consumption and obesity, because people don't realize, but alcohol is like a carbohydrate. 7 grams per kilogram, no other nutritional value. So when it's like drinking a sweet drink or eating bread or eating rice.
Okay.
And you're having these extra 6, 7, 12 pints on a weekend Britain is having, and it's packing on the pounds. But then there are other reasons, of course, why people are obese, the alcohol.
Junk food.
It could be stress. They're not sleeping enough. They eat more. They don't have enough exercise.
But you say the UK is high up there. It's higher than Germany. And yet the tax on alcohol in Britain is much higher than it is in Germany.
Yeah. And still people drink. I think a lot of it also has to do with social pressure. You go out, even here. You go out with friends and there's this pressure to drink. And I personally had the experience where I said, no, I don't want to drink because I'm not a big drinker. And the biggest extreme reaction I've had is, oh, I don't trust a person who doesn't drink.
Well, that's what Humphrey Bogart said too.
Yeah, but if you think about it, that statement is as inane as saying, I don't trust a man who's over 40 and doesn't wear glasses. One thing has nothing to do with the other. Or then, there's this pressure to drink. So I think a lot of it also is social pressure and boasting. What I found weird when I was living in England, boasting about how drunk you got. When I was growing up, it was a source of shame that you got so drunk that you fell.
But the thing is, in the entertainment industry, in broadcasting, I remember when I was starting, a lot of people had drinks at lunchtime. They would go to a bar. Quite common that there would be a bar very near to your studio, and it was referred to as studio number so and so, and it was always one number up from the last number in the building. It was always over in studio 7.
So it sounded quite official still.
But that culture in broadcasting has gone down considerably now. So journalists especially used to be quite hard drinkers, that they are no longer.
Yeah.
You know?
And in companies now, I know that written into the contract is actually, we can test you for drugs and alcohol at a minute's notice. And if we find them, on the job, then you're out.
Yeah.
But I've also been in countries where, during lunchtime, and this is the end of the 90s, early 2000s, during lunchtime, it was standard practice to pop out and have a lager or have a beer or something during work time.
Right.
During work times. But this culture of alcohol, where did it come from? I'm going to ask the Brit in the room. Where did it come from, Barry?
Drinking.
This culture of not just drinking in Britain, binge drinking as a social event.
I don't know. I mean, binge drinking, we're a whole crowd.
Yeah, you go out on a
go
Friday.
to a nightclub. I think it developed when the licensing laws in Britain, in England and Wales, were changed.
Is that where it came from?
So, they had to close. Oh, I'm showing my ignorance here. They had to close the pubs
11.
at 11.
At 11.
The last
Yeah.
call was 11.
And that was all abolished, and it was subject to various restrictions and changes and so on. And so they can stay later, and these clubs have opened, bars which go on, into the early hours. I think that's when it developed.
That's when it started.
And it's horrible. I mean, I've been in some English cities, and there's this awful noise going on. 11 o'clock, midnight, 1 o'clock, and they're all out in the streets, and the girls, they're in the middle of winter. There can be snow, no coats, no warm clothes on at all. The skirts right up to their backsides,
And everything is
they might as well be wearing swimming costumes, and it's just so crazy.
Yeah. And it's dangerous because when they get that drunk, your brain actually isn't aware of how cold you are, and they do get hypothermia. Because they're out there drinking, they're
Really?
happy. Yeah.
That does happen.
Alcohol
Because you don't realize
consumption.
Yeah.
It inhibits your body, your ability to recognize, and your body's ability to regulate, and they get hypothermia. But this drive to drink until you pass out drunk.
Yeah.
It's almost like this race to get as drunk as possible, and I don't know where it came from, but it's dangerous and long term.
Another comment has come in. Talking of Lithuania, because that was on the list, wasn't it? We had dinner in Vilnius, the smiling city, where you won't get fat on the food. And the waiter chased us down the street because he thought our tip was too small.
What?
You got to be kidding me. Really?
Well, okay. Well, Lithuania is not at the top of my list then of places to go. Getting back to the alcohol topic is why is it like this? I mean, we've seen a big change coming from the country where we had prohibition.
Yeah.
And what prohibition did was it opened up the gates for Sodom and Gomorrah to happen there because the prohibition did one thing it did not do was stop people from drinking.
No, quite the opposite.
And now on the other hand, you've got in our society, it's the limits are not there. So you see one problem they had in Germany obviously is young people. Drinking until they went into coma. They call it coma drinking, right? And I guess that has dropped off some in the last year or two. But it was a big problem. And you say, why do people do this? And it's kind of the social pressure, and they get in these groups and they go in there, and because you can start drinking here in Germany, one should say, at 16. Not hard drinks, but you can get beer and these alcopop things from when you're 16. And you're not a responsible age then.
And physiologically, your body isn't fully matured yet.
Right.
So to handle that alcohol and your brain isn't mature to have good judgment, the best of judgment, and your brain isn't. So it's all of those things coming together, drinking at such a young age, to the point of passing out. I don't.
Well, in Germany, of course, it's a place where you can actually be breathalyzed. and it happens, if you're on a bicycle,
Yep.
drunk in charge of a bicycle.
Yeah.
Theoretically, it can happen in other countries.
You can lose your
too.
driving license. because of
Yes,
that.
absolutely. Yes,
Yes,
absolutely.
yes.
It's
You can be on
the
a
limit is
bicycle.
higher than it is for
Yeah.
in a car, but
Yeah.
still, if they
Yeah.
catch you drunk on a bicycle,
Yeah.
But what is good here is they take alcohol seriously, unlike in the States where they do it, but then you
Yeah.
still have drunk drivers on
Right.
the road.
Well, that just about brings us to the end of this month's show. Yeah, yeah.
We're having so much fun.
Yeah, it's been fun
fun
today.
today.
And in our team today were Scott Hazlitt. Thank you very much indeed.
Yes, thanks
we've
for
had
having
Alicia Banfield.
Once again.
And also Andrew Bossum, all the way from southern Germany. And switching the pictures, Bastian Spiller. You can't see him. He's just out of shot. One day we will show him. No, you can't see him. There isn't
Yeah,
a
he
camera
looks
on
worried
him.
about that.
Thanks also to our IT guy, Cameron Garnett. And if you like what we do, why not subscribe to our YouTube channel? So until next month, which is always the last Sunday of the month at 11 o'clock, from me, Barry Redfern, goodbye.